The deep-sea station stopped answering calls at exactly 3:17 a.m. At first, nobody panicked. Communication failures happened constantly 2 miles beneath the Atlantic Ocean. Salt water damaged equipment. Storms interrupted satellite relays. Sometimes the station disappeared from radar for hours before suddenly reconnecting like nothing happened. But this time was different. Because 7 minutes before the signal died, someone inside the station transmitted a distress call. Not an emergency warning. Not a request for evacuation. Just one sentence repeated over and over through heavy static. Something came back up with the drilling team. Then silence. Complete silence. By sunrise, every communication line connected to the station was dead. That's when the company sent us down. There were 6 of us aboard the elevator platform descending through the black water toward the ocean floor. Nobody talked much during the trip, mostly because we all heard the recording already. The distress call spread through the entire company before dawn. Technicians replayed it non-stop inside the control center while security teams argued about whether to contact the Navy. But corporations don't like involving governments unless absolutely necessary, especially not after accidents. And Blackwater Station had already suffered 3 accidents that year alone. The elevator platform groaned loudly while descending deeper beneath the ocean. Above us, sunlight disappeared completely. Then came darkness. Endless black water surrounding the metal cage from every direction. I hated deep ocean jobs. The pressure. The isolation. The feeling that millions of tons of water sat above your head every second. Most people are scared of heights. I'm scared of depth. Beside me, Morales checked his rifle again for maybe the 20th time. You really think this is infected workers or something? Nobody answered him immediately. Because honestly, none of us knew what we were walking into. The company only told us 3 things. The station stopped responding. The drilling crew vanished. And survivors might still be alive below. That last part was why we came armed. Not for rescue. For containment. The elevator lights flickered suddenly. Everyone looked upward instantly. A loud metallic thud echoed somewhere far above us through the support cables. Morales gripped his rifle tighter. You hear that? Another thud vibrated through the platform. Then silence again. I looked through the metal bars surrounding the elevator cage into the dark water outside. At first I saw nothing. Then something moved below us. Fast. A pale shape disappearing into darkness beneath the platform lights. One of the technicians cursed quietly. What the hell was that? Nobody knew. But after that, nobody looked away from the water again. The station finally appeared beneath us 20 minutes later. Blackwater Station rested across the ocean floor like a dead city buried in darkness. Floodlights illuminated sections of the massive drilling complex while other parts remained completely black. No movement. No radio signals. No signs of life. And the deeper we descended toward it, the more wrong everything started feeling, because one of the airlock doors stood open. From this depth, that should have been impossible. Nobody spoke after seeing the open airlock. At this depth, one failed seal should have flooded entire sections of the station within seconds. Yet Blackwater Station was still intact, at least from the outside. The elevator platform docked against the main maintenance entrance with a heavy metallic clang that echoed through the dark water around us. Still no radio contact. Still no movement inside. Only the sound of the ocean pressing endlessly against steel walls miles beneath the surface. Captain Reynolds stepped forward first. Helmets on. Stay together. Everyone obeyed immediately. Our diving masks sealed tight with sharp hissing sounds while oxygen systems activated inside our suits. Morales checked the station pressure readings beside the airlock controls. His expression changed instantly. That can't be right. What? He tapped the screen slowly. Internal pressures stable. The entire team went silent again. If the station pressure remained stable, then the open airlock should not exist. Reynolds stared through the thick glass toward the dark hallway beyond the entrance chamber. Open it. The inner hatch unlocked with a deep mechanical groan. Cold air rushed into the chamber immediately carrying a smell I'll never forget. Salt water, oil, and something rotten underneath both. The station lights flickered weakly overhead while we stepped carefully into the corridor one by one. Blackwater Station looked abandoned. Coffee cups still sat beside computer terminals. Tools lay scattered across the floor. One emergency alarm flashed silently near the ceiling, bathing the hallway in slow red pulses. But no people. No bodies. Nothing. That bothered me most. Morales aimed his rifle toward the dark intersections ahead. Where is everybody? Then we found the blood. A long smear stretched across the floor leading deeper into the station toward the drilling sector. Not dried blood. Fresh. Reynolds crouched beside it carefully. Less than a few hours old. Impossible. The station had been silent since 3:17 a.m. yesterday. Something else caught my attention suddenly. The walls. Deep scratches covered the metal panels along both sides of the corridor. Not random damage. Patterns. Like someone had dragged sharp metal hooks through the station walls repeatedly. One of the technicians whispered quietly, "Animals? 2 miles beneath the ocean? No chance." Then the lights flickered harder. For half a second the hallway went completely dark. And during that darkness, I heard breathing. Not ours. Something wet. Slow. Close. The lights returned instantly. Everyone raised weapons. Nothing stood in the hallway. But the blood trail had changed. Fresh droplets now continued toward the station cafeteria nearby. as if something wounded had just moved through their seconds earlier. Reynolds motioned forward. Careful. We advanced slowly through the corridor while red emergency lights flashed across the station walls. Then Morales suddenly froze beside the cafeteria entrance. Oh God! I looked inside, and finally understood why the station went silent. Every worker inside the cafeteria was still sitting at their tables. Dead. At least 30 bodies. None looked damaged. No bites. No visible injuries. They just sat there motionless beneath flickering lights staring toward the kitchen doors. As if something walked into the room, and every single person froze watching it. Nobody entered the cafeteria at first. We just stood there staring through the doorway while the dead workers sat motionless beneath the flickering lights. Some still held forks in their hands. Others clutched coffee cups frozen halfway to their mouths. One woman sat beside an overturned chair with tears dried across her face. But the eyes were the worst part. Every corpse stared toward the kitchen doors, wide open, terrified. Morales whispered beside me, "What the hell happened here?" Captain Reynolds slowly stepped into the cafeteria first. Check for movement. Nobody wanted that job, but we followed him anyway. The room smelled horrible up close. Rotting food, salt water, and something chemical lingering in the air strong enough to burn my nose through the mask filters. One of the technicians examined a nearby body carefully. No wounds. Another worker leaned against the wall near the emergency exits. Blood streamed from both ears. Tiny streaks of it covered several tables nearby too, like whatever killed them happened inside their heads. Then the kitchen doors moved. Just slightly. Everyone aimed weapons instantly. The room went silent except for the hum of failing lights overhead. Reynolds stepped closer slowly. "Identify yourself." No response. The kitchen doors creaked open another inch. Darkness waited beyond them. Then something rolled across the cafeteria floor. A helmet. One of the drilling crew helmets. It stopped near Reynolds' boots covered in seawater and blood. The technician beside me whispered, "Someone's alive." Then the whisper came from inside the kitchen. "Don't, weak. Barely human." Morales rushed toward the doors immediately. "Hold on, big mistake." The second he reached the kitchen entrance, the lights died. Complete darkness swallowed the cafeteria. People started shouting instantly. Flashlights switched on wildly across the room. Beams crossed over dead faces frozen at tables. Over blood. Over overturned trays. Then one flashlight landed inside the kitchen, and Morales screamed. Not from pain. Pure terror. His rifle fired wildly into the darkness while something huge crashed into the metal counters beyond the doors. Everyone opened fire instantly. Muzzle flashes lit the cafeteria like lightning. Then the lights came back. Morales was gone. Only blood remained near the kitchen entrance. Fresh blood dragging across the floor into darkness. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Reynolds slowly approached the kitchen doorway again while keeping his rifle raised. The blood trail disappeared behind the industrial freezer room at the back, and written across the freezer door in blood were 4 words, "It knows we're here." One of the technicians panicked immediately. "We need to leave now." Then the station speakers crackled overhead suddenly. Static flooded every hallway around us. A distorted voice echoed through Blackwater Station. Not human anymore, but trying to sound human. "Welcome back." The voice echoed through every speaker inside Blackwater Station. "Welcome back." Distorted. Wet. Like someone speaking underwater. The technician nearest the cafeteria doors panicked instantly and ran into the hallway. "Screw this," Captain Reynolds shouted after him. "Get back here." Too late. The station lights flickered again. Then something moved fast across the hallway outside. A pale blur. The screaming lasted maybe 2 seconds. Then silence. Everyone inside the cafeteria froze. Nobody chased after him, because deep down, we already knew he was dead. The speakers crackled again overhead. "You shouldn't have come down here." Morales' voice. Or at least something pretending to be Morales. One of the remaining technicians started crying quietly. "That's impossible." Reynolds forced himself toward the cafeteria exit while keeping his rifle aimed down the hallway. "Move." We stepped carefully over the dead workers and followed him outside. The corridor beyond the cafeteria looked empty again. No technician. No body. Just blood smeared across the walls leading toward the lower drilling sectors beneath the station. And the deeper levels were exactly where the distress signal originated. The emergency map beside the elevator shaft still glowed faintly red. "Drilling sector C offline." Reynolds looked at all of us one by one. "We find survivors. Then we leave." Nobody believed there were survivors anymore. Still, we followed him downward. The elevator to the drilling sector descended slowly through the center of the station while darkness surrounded the glass shaft outside. Most floodlights below had already failed. Only emergency lights remained glowing deep beneath the ocean floor. The deeper we traveled, the stranger the station became. Water dripped constantly from the ceiling despite pressure systems supposedly functioning normally. Deep dents covered the elevator walls from the inside, like something large had slammed against them repeatedly trying to escape. Then we passed observation windows looking into the external ocean. At first I saw only darkness beyond the glass. Then shapes appeared outside. Dozens of them. Human silhouettes floating motionless in the water surrounding the station. The drilling crew. Their suits drifted slowly through the black ocean while floodlights illuminated pale faces behind cracked helmets. Dead. Every single one. One technician backed away from the window in horror. How are they standing upright? He was right. The bodies weren't floating normally. They stood vertically on the ocean floor outside the station, staring directly toward us through the glass. Watching. The elevator suddenly stopped moving. Halfway to the drilling sector, the lights dimmed again, and one of the dead workers outside the observation window moved. Just slightly. Its helmet turned toward me slowly through the dark water. Then the station speakers whispered softly above us. He opened the door. Nobody inside the elevator moved. The dead worker outside the glass kept staring directly at us from the ocean floor while seawater drifted slowly around its suit. Then another helmet turned. And another. Everybody outside the station now faced the elevator shaft, watching us descend. One technician started hyperventilating immediately. "This isn't possible." Captain Reynolds slammed the emergency controls repeatedly. "Move." The elevator finally lurched downward again with a violent metallic groan. But slower now. Much slower. The station speakers crackled softly overhead. He thought it was dead. Morales' voice again. Wet. Broken. Like his lungs were full of seawater. Then came another voice beneath it. Deeper. Not human at all. It was sleeping. The lights dimmed harder. Water suddenly dripped from the ceiling directly onto my helmet visor. Then more droplets followed. The technician beside me looked upward slowly and screamed. A crack stretched across the elevator ceiling, thin at first, then widening. Black seawater leaked through it steadily. Pressure alarms exploded instantly throughout the shaft. Red warning lights flooded the elevator cabin while mechanical sirens echoed across the station. Hull breach detected. Everyone panicked. The remaining technician dropped to his knees sobbing while Reynolds tried forcing the elevator downward manually. The station speakers kept whispering through the alarms. He woke it up outside the observation windows. The dead workers on the ocean floor began moving. Not walking. Crawling. Slowly toward the station walls. Dozens of them dragging themselves through the dark water unnaturally across the seabed. One smashed against the observation glass hard enough to crack its helmet apart. The face inside looked swollen and pale. Barnacles covered half its skin, but its eyes were still open. Alive. Another body slammed against the glass. Then another. The elevator ceiling crack suddenly burst wider. Freezing seawater exploded into the cabin. People screamed instantly. The pressure hit like a hammer. One technician lost footing and smashed against the elevator doors while water flooded around our boots. Reynolds grabbed the emergency ladder hatch above us. We climbed. He forced the hatch open just as the elevator lights failed completely. Darkness swallowed the shaft. Only red emergency lights far below illuminated the station now. And down there, Something enormous moved beneath the drilling sector. I only saw part of it through the darkness outside the shaft. A massive pail shape sliding slowly between the station supports across the ocean floor. Too large to fully comprehend. The water around the station suddenly filled with movement. More bodies rising from the seabed. More dead workers crawling toward the structure. And somewhere deep below us beneath Blackwater Station, something hit the ocean floor hard enough to shake the entire facility. The entire elevator shaft shook violently. Metal screamed around us while freezing seawater poured through the broken ceiling into the cabin below. "Climb!" Reynolds shouted. Nobody needed convincing. We scrambled onto the emergency ladder inside the shaft while water continued flooding upward beneath us. The remaining technician slipped twice from panic before I grabbed his arm and forced him higher. Far below us, red emergency lights flickered across the drilling sector deep beneath the station, and something huge kept moving down there. Not swimming, crawling. The station groaned loudly again. Another impact echoed through the ocean floor beneath Blackwater Station hard enough to shake bolts loose from the shaft walls. The technician above me whispered frantically, "What did they drill into?" Nobody answered. Because I think all of us already knew. The drilling crew found something they were never supposed to reach. And somehow, they brought it back alive. We finally reached the upper maintenance hatch and forced it open into another corridor. The station looked worse now. Water leaked from ceiling pipes everywhere. Emergency alarms flashed red through thick steam drifting across the hallways. And the smell, the rotten chemical smell, had become almost unbearable. Reynolds slammed the hatch shut behind us. "Control room," he said. "We restore communications and call surface extraction. Logical plan. Assuming the station survived long enough." We moved quickly through the corridors while the station trembled beneath distant impacts below us. Then we heard knocking, soft at first, coming from inside one of the crew quarters nearby. Everyone froze. 3 knocks. Pause. 3 more. The technician beside me looked terrified. There could still be survivors. Reynolds approached the cabin door slowly. "Identify yourself." Silence. Then came a weak woman's voice from inside. "Please, human. Definitely human." The technician rushed toward the door immediately. "Wait, too late." He opened it. The room inside looked dark except for emergency lights flashing softly across overturned furniture. A woman sat against the far wall wrapped in blankets staring downward at the floor. Alive. At least physically. Her skin looked pale gray beneath the lights. Salt crystals covered parts of her face and neck like dried frost. The technician stepped closer carefully. "Ma'am," the woman slowly raised her head, and my stomach dropped instantly. Her eyes were completely black. Not infected. Not blind. Black. like deep ocean water with no light inside it. She smiled slightly, then whispered, "It's listening." Every station speaker activated at once. A deafening sound exploded through the corridors around us. Not alarms. Whale calls. Massive distorted whale sounds echoing through Blackwater Station loud enough to vibrate the walls. The woman began shaking violently on the floor. Then seawater started pouring from her mouth. Not vomiting. Flowing. Like her body was filling from the inside. The technician stumbled backward in horror. And somewhere far below us in the drilling sector, something answered the whale calls back. The sound that answered from below didn't resemble any animal I'd ever heard. It vibrated through the station walls so deeply I felt it inside my chest before I actually heard it. The lights overhead burst instantly. Glass exploded across the corridor. Everyone covered their ears while the whale-like call echoed endlessly through Blackwater Station. The woman on the floor kept convulsing violently. Seawater poured from her mouth across the cabin floor while her black eyes remained locked directly on us. Then she whispered something else. "It's almost here." Captain Reynolds grabbed the technician and dragged him backward into the hallway. "Move!" We ran. The corridor shook constantly now as deep impacts echoed upward through the station beneath us. Every few seconds another section of lights failed. Darkness spread through Blackwater Station piece by piece. The station speakers suddenly activated again. This time not Morales. Not the woman. A completely different voice. Calm. Professional. Attention personnel. Drilling Sector C has been breached. A pause. Then, surface extraction is no longer possible. The remaining technicians started panicking immediately. No, another impact shook the station so violently the hallway tilted sideways beneath our feet. Pipes burst overhead spraying freezing water across the corridor. Then the emergency shutters activated automatically around us. Heavy steel doors slammed shut throughout the station, sealing entire sections instantly. One slammed down between me and Reynolds. The captain barely rolled beneath it in time. The technician didn't. The steel door crushed his legs instantly. His scream echoed through the station. I tried helping him pull free, but the damage was catastrophic. Bone. Blood. Metal. He looked at me with pure terror. "Don't leave me." Then something moved behind him in the dark corridor beyond the emergency shutter. A silhouette. Tall. Wrong. Water dripped from the ceiling around it while emergency red lights flashed across pale skin. The technicians saw it too, and started screaming harder. The figure stepped closer slowly. At first it almost looked human. A diving suit. Station equipment. One of the drilling crew. Then the light flashed again. Its helmet visor was cracked open from the inside, and behind the glass, there was no face anymore, only moving black water. The creature tilted its head unnaturally toward us. Then the station speakers whispered softly, "He brought part of it back." The drilling creature suddenly slammed against the emergency shutter hard enough to bend the steel inward. The injured technician screamed. Another impact. The door warped further. Reynolds grabbed my arm instantly. "We have to go." I hated him for saying it. Because he was right. The technician knew it too. The last thing I saw before running was him crying beside the bent emergency door while the thing wearing the diving suit kept smashing its body against the metal trying to reach him. Then the shutter finally started tearing open. The technician screaming followed us through the station for almost a full minute. Then it stopped instantly. No final yell. No struggle. Just silence. That somehow felt worse. Captain Reynolds and I sprinted through the flooding corridors while emergency shutters sealed sections of Blackwater Station behind us one after another. The station was dying. Fast. Steam filled the hallways now from ruptured pipes while freezing seawater flooded across the floors ankle deep. And beneath all of it, the whale sounds continued echoing from somewhere below the drilling sector. Closer now. Much closer. Reynolds checked the emergency station map mounted near a security checkpoint. Most of Blackwater Station flashed completely red. Containment failure. Hull breach warnings. Power collapse. Only one section still remained active. Control center, we restore communications there, Reynolds said breathlessly. Or we die down here. We pushed deeper through the station. The deeper alarms became louder. More desperate. Then we reached the laboratory wing. That's where we finally learned what the drilling crew found. The security doors to the research lab stood partially open with blood covering the walls nearby. Inside, computers still flickered weakly beneath emergency power. Research footage played automatically across several monitors. Reynolds approached one slowly. And froze. The footage showed the drilling crew 3 days earlier standing around something enormous recovered from beneath the ocean floor. At first it looked like rock. Then the thing moved. The object was alive. A massive pale organism covered in black veins and deep-sea parasites pulsing slowly beneath laboratory lights. The creature looked ancient. Not animal. Not human. Something older. One scientist spoke through the recording. "We believe the organism remained dormant beneath the seabed for thousands of years." Another voice answered nervously, "It reacts to sound." Then the footage changed suddenly. Panic. Screaming. People running through the lab. The organism split open violently across the center like flesh tearing apart from the inside. Black water flooded across the room. And shapes started moving inside it. Reynolds backed away from the monitor slowly. What the hell did they find? Then another recording activated automatically beside us. This one showed Dr. Levin, the station director. His face looked exhausted, terrified. Behind him the station alarms already flashed red. "If anyone finds this message," he said shakily, "do not let it reach the surface." The recording distorted briefly. We drilled into something alive beneath the trench. It communicates through sound frequencies. It imitates voices. It infects biological tissue through exposure. Levin looked off camera suddenly. Fear crossed his face instantly. Then he whispered, "It learned us too quickly." Something massive slammed against the laboratory wall. The entire room shook violently. Glass shattered across the floor. Then all the monitors died simultaneously. And somewhere directly outside the laboratory, something enormous dragged itself slowly through the flooded hallway. The thing outside the laboratory moved slowly at first. Scray-a-op. Metal groaned beneath its weight while seawater rippled across the hallway floor outside the shattered glass walls. Captain Reynolds killed his flashlight immediately. Darkness swallowed the lab except for faint red emergency lights still flickering overhead. We stayed perfectly still. The scraping sound grew louder. Closer. Then something massive passed beside the laboratory windows. At first I couldn't understand what I was seeing. The creature was too large. Too wrong. Pale flesh dragged across the hallway outside like the body of some enormous deep-sea animal forced onto land. Black veins pulsed beneath translucent skin while pieces of station equipment and human bodies appeared partially fused into its surface. Faces moved inside it. Still alive. Mouths opened silently beneath layers of flesh pressed against the creature's body from within. One face suddenly turned toward the laboratory window. Morales. Or what used to be Morales. His mouth opened slowly against the creature's skin, and through the station speakers above us, his voice whispered, "Don't let it hear you." The creature stopped moving. Complete silence filled Blackwater Station. Then the whale sound echoed again. Not from below this time. From directly outside the laboratory. The windows shattered instantly. Freezing seawater exploded into the room carrying the smell of rotten salt and something ancient underneath both. Reynolds grabbed my arm. "Run!" We sprinted through the flooding laboratory while water poured inside around us. Behind us, the creature forced part of its body through the destroyed windows impossibly slowly like liquid flesh squeezing through gaps too small to fit anything that size. The station alarms suddenly changed tone. A robotic voice echoed through every hallway. Reactor failure imminent. Blackwater Station had minutes left. Maybe less. We burst into the central control corridor just as emergency backup lights activated across the station. And that's when we saw the control center doors already open. Someone stood inside. Dr. Levin. Alive. At least physically. He sat motionless before the communication consoles while seawater dripped from his soaked uniform onto the floor. Reynolds aimed his rifle instantly. "Doctor." Levin turned slowly toward us. His eyes were completely black now, like the woman from the crew quarters. But unlike her, he was smiling. "You shouldn't have come down here," he whispered. Then every monitor inside the control room activated simultaneously. Live external camera feeds surrounded us, showing the ocean outside the station. At first I thought the cameras malfunctioned, because the water beyond Blackwater Station looked completely filled with movement. Then I realized the truth. Thousands of pale shapes surrounded the station on the ocean floor, standing motionless in the darkness, watching, waiting. And farther out beyond the floodlights, something enormous was rising slowly from the trench below. The thing rising from the trench made Blackwater Station look tiny. Even through the distorted underwater cameras, my brain struggled to understand its size. At first it resembled part of the ocean floor itself. Then it moved. Massive pale structures unfolded slowly through the darkness beneath the trench, while entire clouds of sediment drifted upward around it. The station trembled violently. Not from damage anymore. From pressure. Like the ocean itself was reacting to whatever was waking beneath it. Dr. Levin kept smiling at the monitors. "It heard us drilling." Captain Reynolds aimed the rifle directly at him. "What is that thing?" Levin's black eyes reflected the emergency lights strangely. "We don't have a word for it. The control room alarm screamed non-stop now. Reactor failure in 3 minutes. The station wouldn't survive much longer. Neither would we." Outside the flooded windows beyond the control room, hundreds of infected crew members gathered along the ocean floor, surrounding the station motionlessly, like worshippers waiting for something to arrive. Then the whale sound echoed again. Deafening this time. Every monitor inside the control room shattered instantly. Blood poured from Reynolds' ears as he collapsed to one knee, screaming. I nearly blacked out from the pressure inside my skull. But Dr. Levin, he looked peaceful. Almost happy. "It's calling them home." The station lights failed completely. Darkness swallowed Blackwater Station for one final moment. Then emergency backup power activated across the entire facility all at once. Every hallway, every floodlight, every external camera, and through the control room windows, I finally saw the thing clearly. Not entirely. Only part of it. A colossal pale structure rising through the black ocean, larger than the station itself, covered in moving black veins and endless eyes opening slowly across its surface beneath the water. The deep sea around it looked alive. Twisting. Breathing. Captain Reynolds forced himself back to his feet through the pain. "We're leaving." Dr. Levin laughed softly. "There's nowhere left to go." Then the control room floor cracked open beneath us. Freezing seawater exploded upward through the metal. The station had finally failed. Pressure alarms became deafening. Walls bent inward. Glass shattered across every corridor outside. Blackwater Station was collapsing into the trench. Reynolds grabbed an emergency dive mask from the wall and shoved it toward me. Surface pods. It was suicide. The station sat 2 miles beneath the ocean. No emergency ascent should have worked from that depth. But staying meant certain death. The entire facility tilted violently sideways while sections of the control room disappeared beneath flooding water instantly. Outside the windows, the enormous thing continued rising through the darkness toward the collapsing station. And as Blackwater Station died around us, every speaker inside the facility whispered the same words one final time. Something came back up with the drilling team. Then the ocean swallowed everything.